To be the player with the most money when another player runs out of money. You do this by setting up ticket booths on as many boardwalk amusements as possible and collecting entrance fees from the other players. Equipment, each player takes a car mover. Each player is entitled to 10 ticket booths. Shuffle the deck, choose player, roll the die. High roller goes first. On your turn, player movement, amusement. Oh, hi there. Sorry, I was just reading the rules of Monopoly Junior, aka the rules of the. Hello there, Nate Jackson, Criterion Collection Reviewer guy here, number 216. Rules of the game. Jean Renoir. Our first Jean Renoir movie since the very first one that we watched 2 years ago. Basically 2 years ago. Grand Illusion. They finally got around to doing another one. And apparently this is one of the greatest films of all time, and I don't know. I mean, it's not bad. It's not a bad movie. And it's not like, but it's not, I didn't think it was spectacular. I don't understand why people hated it, at times, and now why people absolutely love it, But it's just a movie. It's just a movie, and that's all I see it as. Maybe you can help me explain it to me in the comments, because nothing what I've read or seen in this package, none of the supplements have convinced me that this is like the greatest movie of all time. So, like I said, it's not a bad movie. I didn't hate it. It was a little pretty confusing at times, but then again, the production and history of this movie is confusing. But anyway, details: 1939, 106 minutes, French. So, plot. Well, I'll try to summarize the plot, because it's kind of a soap opera. This is a weird little soap opera, comedy kind of thing. So, we got this airplane guy, this flight guy. His name is Andre. I think his name is Andre. Andre Giroux, I think his name is. And he just got through flying across the Atlantic by himself. And he did it for his girlfriend, Christine. Or his girl he really likes, named Christine. And she wasn't there to greet him. He was hoping that she'd be there to greet him, but she wasn't. So he gets all depressed. And he thinks, oh, I did this for nothing. Oh, God. And it's like, and then his friend Octave, who's played by Jean Renoir himself, is there to help. There to console him, and Christine is listening to the radio, listening to the report on the flight on her radio with her maid, Lisette, and Christine ends up, talking to her husband. See, that's the thing. Christine's married to a guy named Robert. Robert is in love with Christine and all that, and they talk about his crush on Andre, but at the same time Robert does feel like Christine still Andre's a threat, because they did have a relationship in the past, but now she's with Robert and all that. And Lisette is married to the gameskeeper at their estate. His name's Schumacher. Just getting the relationships out of the way. And so meanwhile, while all this is happening, Robert has a mistress named Genevieve, and he's trying to get rid of her. And so his plan is to get Andre and Genevieve together. And so he invites them both to their estate, so that they'll try and do a little matchmaking and all that. However, it doesn't go as planned. It's a little crazy. They go out hunting for rabbits, and while they're there, Schumacher finds a poacher whose name's Marceau, I think. Marceau. He's trying to poach the rabbits and all that. And rather than throw him off the property, he actually ends up giving him a job as a groundskeeper kind of person, or a servant. And so he brings him in the house, and he falls for Lisette. And so there's a whole triangle there. Lisette kind of digs Marceau, but of course she's married to Schumacher. Schumacher gets pissed off and tries to murder him when he finds out about him and all that. And so yeah, so anyway, Andre and Genevieve don't really ever get together. In fact, Christine falls back in love with Andre, and they plan on running away together. However, when Andre starts to become a little more controlling and say, "Oh, we gotta live with my mother," and this and all that, she ends up falling for Octave. They have a friendship throughout the movie, and it turns into love at the end. And so it's very, very complicated. And so at the end, toward the end, I mean, there's a lot that I'm kind of cutting out. That's like the hunting scene. There's a scene with this very famous scene with this extravagant music box, and like a little play that they put on where Octave is a gorilla or something like that. But I'm just giving you the skinny, because there's a lot to talk about with the supplements and the making of it. So anyway, Octave is in love with Christine, and so on and so forth. Christine and Octave go walking. Schumacher, but Lisette gives Christine her hood so that she won't catch cold. Schumacher and Marceau have been thrown out of the estate for fighting and for shooting. I think Schumacher tries to shoot and runs through the house with a gun. And at one point, even Andre and Robert go at it over Christine. They fight, and so the whole party kind of just falls into shambles basically at the end of the movie. And so they go off and they see Octave and Christine together, and so he thinks, wait, Christine together, but Christine's got the coat, and so when she sees Octave, and so when she sees Octave and Christine together, they think it's Lisette, and so like they get all upset, and so Schumacher goes to get his gun. He comes back, and then at the end, Robert kind of says, Andre, I'm gonna divorce her. You two are obviously really in love with each other. She really loves you. You go off, but but Octave says, here, take my coat so that you won't catch cold. And so he runs. So Andre runs out of the house toward the greenhouse with Octave's coat on. Meanwhile, Schumacher and Marceau are waiting in the bushes to shoot Octave, who they think is Octave, and who's really, so when they see a guy running around with Octave's coat, they think it's him. They shoot him. Andre dies after crying out for Christine, and then they realize their mistake, and they cover it up by just saying it was an accident. Robert covers it up by saying it's an accident. We're gonna respect his death by leaving tomorrow in the morning, and it basically ends with them saying, remember that Robert, he's got class, by doing that, and even though I don't think I forget who says it at the end, but they don't know the truth and all that, and so it's a lot of intrigue, a lot of it just shows you what love can do to you, basically. And that's basically the plot of it. So anyway, again, I mean, it's a very funny movie at times. It's a very moving movie. There's a lot of interesting dialogue in it. I mean, it's Renoir, so it's got to be good, I mean, I loved Grand Illusion. I really want to see that one again, because it's been 2 years since I've seen it. And so it's not a bad film. And that's sadly the only thing I can really say. It's not a bad film. I don't know why people, when this film came out, people hated it, apparently. Apparently they tried to set fire to the movie theater when they saw it. And I'm sitting there thinking, and I'm reading this history before I watched it, and I'm like, how controversial it was. I'm like, I don't get it. And so it's got to be one of those, right place, right time things, or wrong place, wrong time, depending on how you look at it. I am in the I'm definitely wrong place, wrong time kind of thing. I had to be there to see, there were people booing and jarring, at certain scenes, and I haven't been able to figure out which scenes those are. So yeah, it's just weird. It's just a weird little film. It's got a weird history. Yeah, so apparently the history of this goes that this movie is 106. It's 106 minutes. Apparently the movie was really 100 and almost 2 hours, close to 2 hours, 117 minutes, I think. However, before pre-showings, Renoir decided to cut it down to 90 minutes or 95 minutes, I think. And after the film just was hated, he cut it even further down. He cut all the scenes that the people seem to hate, that the audiences seem to hate, and he cut it down to 81 minutes. And so that was the film. That was the version of the film that was known to people until about the 50s, I think, the 50s or 60s, when these two guys, got together and pulled all the film together and restored the film to its close to its original length. I guess there are a couple of scenes that are still missing because obviously this version is 106, but it's the most complete version of the film that we have. And yeah, it's weird that this film was hated so much, because like I said, I didn't hate it, and I mean, I could see that it's got a little political background and all that, and I guess to summarize it, the audience saw something wrong with it because they saw themselves in the movie. It was a class movie, and because of that, there were a lot of people in upper class who saw themselves and thought, "You're making fun of me. Boo, 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 boo. Let's burn this motherfucker." So anyway, that's all I can say about it. Not a bad movie. Very funny at times. Very, very interesting plot. Once you get the hang of it, once you figure out who everybody is, you follow along, makes sense. Definitely going to watch this one again just so I can totally get it. But as far as a rating is concerned, I'm gonna give it an A minus. Give it a B. B plus. B plus. It's the ending. Just the ending just really jars. Really just kind of struck me as a nasty little ending. I mean, obviously it's not. It's supposed to be a little nasty, but what can you say? So yeah, B plus. Not a bad film. I still like Grand Illusion more than this one, but still it deserves the. I think I can get behind most of the accolades. Not all of them. I don't understand half the accolades this movie gets, but some of them, yeah. So anyway, that's that. There's a 6-minute interview on this introduction by Jean Renoir that was done in the 60s. Talks about it. And then there's a comparison of the two endings. Robert's speech at the end when he talks to his guests about the death of Andre was cut, drastically cut, and cut straight to the speech at the end, the dialogue between two characters, and so that's talked about, as well as certain scenes that were analyzed by Renoir historian Chris Faulkner, and yeah. So anyway, so that's disc 1. Then disc 2 is one of those everything you always wanted to know about Renoir but were afraid but never asked kind of discs. There's a half-hour excerpt from Jean Renoir, Le Patron, La Règle et l'Exception from 1966, where it's basically the section that focuses mostly on the rules of the game. So it's Renoir talking about it. He seems a little bitter, a little kind of upset, maybe because he just had to recall certain bad memories about this one. Whereas when he was talking about the film in the introduction, he seems a little more at ease. Maybe it was just the professionalism of that particular introduction versus the interview that he felt that it was just a little different time. And then there's also an hour, part 1 of a 2-hour BBC documentary that was produced in 1993 called Jean Renoir for the BBC show Omnibus, and it's just basically an hour just talking about is basically Jean Renoir's life from his birth up until about the rules of the game. So it's just basically they focused on just that section, which makes sense, you know. They couldn't put both parts of it on here because they've got, you know, all the other subtitles. There's a short video essay about the reconstruction and the history, and then there's a half-hour interview with film critic Olivier Curchod, where he basically repeats the same thing about the visual essay, and then there's a 10-minute excerpt from a 1965 episode of the French television series Les Grands de la Ville, which interviewed with the two guys who reconstructed the film, Jean Gaborit and Jacques Durand. They talk about how much they love the movie and they really wanted to, you know, get it together and all that. And then there's 3 more interviews that were produced for 2 were produced especially for Criterion, and the other one Max Dewey, who's a set designer, talks about the sets and how he hates scale models and he really doesn't like them, and how directors kind of don't like them either because they don't know what to do with them. There's an interview with Mila Parelli. She was the actress who played Genevieve, and that was for like a whole other thing. It was just an excerpted Criterion, I guess, excerpted the bit where she talked mostly about Renoir and rules of the game, which they do. And then there's also an 18-minute interview with Renoir's son, Alain, who worked with him on the rules of the game and a bunch of his other films. So, and they just, you know, he really had good things to say about his father, of course, and working on the film, and yeah, it's definitely if you want the next best thing, the son. So, anyway, that's all I'm gonna say about this. It's not a bad film, but I don't think it's the greatest. I've seen better films than this. I mean, of course, I'll forgive it because obviously this movie was before High and Low, and this movie was before Diabolique, and this movie was before any of the Stan Brakhage films, and this was before Monsieur Hulot's Holiday, so I'll forgive it for that. But other than that, B+. Direct hit. Anyway, so that's it for me today. Wednesday we got Tokyo Story. And oh boy, we got some. Looks like we got some supplements on this one. How long is this movie? 136 minutes. Well, it's Japanese. A lot of Japanese films are very long. I've noticed that. Kurosawa's films are very long. But at the same time, at least Kurosawa's films are good. I'm hoping that this one is. I know this is one of the greatest Japanese films, and I've heard a lot about this, so. You know, I'm gonna go into this thinking it's probably gonna be awesome. Whereas the rules of the game, I had not heard about the rules of the game until basically barely until I just started reviewing it. So, but Tokyo Story, I've heard about this for a while, so I'm gonna put my faith into it. And yeah, so anyway, there's that, and then we got La Secret Rouge on Thursday, and then Saturday, Cabiria. With Fellini's La Strada. And that'll be for this week, and of course next week, you know, we got Naked Lunch. Ikiru, Diary of a Country Priest is on its way. And Maitresse, I'll probably order it sometime by the end of the week, and hopefully it'll be here. If it happens to not be here by next Saturday, then I will probably try and move on to the next one. And yeah, then I'll just move on to the next one, and we'll just we'll just not worry about it, and then we'll get to it when we get to it. So anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching. Don't cheat on your spouse with aviator guys. Never judge a book by its cover, or never judge a man by the coat he wears or the hat he wears, or never judge a woman by the cape she wears. And yeah, don't set movie theaters on fire. That's a good one. Never set movie theaters on fire. And yeah, so that's it for me. Thank you for watching, and we will see you on Wednesday for Tokyo Story. And until then, goodbye.